John Caudwell, a business leader, philanthropist, and founder of Phones for You, is worried about the effect on businesses if everyone is told to work from home again. And John Caudwell, that pretty much is where we are. I mean, it's slightly unbelievable given the government was campaigning behind the scenes just a few weeks ago, desperate to get people back into offices. They're essentially saying now for the next 6 months, you're likely to be working from home. This is going to be catastrophic for business, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Dan. Quite naturally, it's going to be catastrophic. But let's not lose sight of the fact that it already is catastrophic. This is just going to add further stress to an already extremely oppressed UK economy. And it is, of course, one of the big reasons that I've been constantly pushing CPR, which is the abbreviation for Caudwell Pandemic Recovery, whereby I'm advocating that the government borrow a lot more money in the region of 500 billion to 1 trillion to invest in renewable energy, apprenticeship schemes, inward investment and infrastructure.
CPR. I like it. I like
CPR,
it.
yes.
We need some of that.
Everybody ought
Don't
to
we, John?
remember that, because Caudwell Pandemic Recovery, apart from Brandon myself, is really critical, because the points that I'm coming up with in order to rejuvenate the UK economy post-pandemic are really crucial. And I have no doubt whatsoever that if Boris doesn't adopt some or most of my points of pandemic recovery, that the UK as an economic country is going to be suffering for many, many, many years. Even with Caudwell Pandemic Recovery, it's probably going to be suffering for 4 or 5 years. But at least we'll come through it, and we'll come through it stronger, bigger and better than ever. But if we don't do that, I fear for the future.
So there's a big moment for Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, tomorrow. We know the furlough scheme is meant to be coming to an end. Now there's talk of these 6 months of restrictions. He's going to be in the House of Commons tomorrow, we believe, at around 12:30, announcing new measures. What do you think he should do? Should he end the furlough scheme and try something else?
Well, I think he does definitely have to selectively support the businesses that are being damaged by this. And that does mean carrying on with furlough in some context. I'm not sure I'd keep it at 80%, but it's a tricky one now, because of course he's advocating that people don't go into the office if they can work from home, which is a complete reversal of all that money spent advertising to the contrary. And that is a bit frustrating, but I think what he needs to do is keep some degree of limited furlough. He definitely needs to allow people to go to work for 1, 2 or 3 days a week and pay some furlough payment for the days that the employers don't need the employee in work. So that is one measure, but he needs to support directors of small limited companies and all small businesses that are being damaged by this. But that's the sticking plaster, if you like. That's the if you'll use the analogy that the patient has gone into hospital with a broken leg and a heart attack, the sticking plaster, or the plaster on the broken leg, is the short-term measures that we're making. What we really need is the CPR to rejuvenate the patient and bring us back to full life in the shortest number of years possible.
Oh, indeed,
There is another point I'd like to make on this, Dan. I always have questioned whether we really should be exercising these lockdowns. Now, I have no doubt whatsoever that in April we did need a full lockdown because deaths were running at 18% of cases.
Yeah. And we didn't know much about this virus at that point.
And we didn't, exactly the point, yes. We didn't know. We needed to learn, and we needed to reduce that death rate. Now we're running at 0.4% deaths to cases. That is still a tragedy for people, but people are dying of all illnesses all the time, and flu can easily kill 0.4% of people. So this is not that serious in my view. And there's a lot of logical reasons why a lot of scientists, a lot of medical advisors are saying it's not that serious. There's a lot of theories out there, and I've read them all. I've read all the government stuff that says how deadly it is and how bad now we've got to lock people down. But I've also read all the alternatives, and I have my own theories as well. And I'm not saying I'm right, but I do believe that a combination of the fact that this virus is only now killing 0.4% of cases, coupled with the fact that we're not looking after people with cancer and many, many other
Yes.
horrible illnesses as well as we should be, coupled with the economic destruction, the suicides that will occur from that, and the devastation in general to the economy and the huge unemployment. If you add all that together, I think we're really doing the wrong thing, and that the cost to society and humanity will be way greater in the long run than if we just let this virus run its course, protect the old and vulnerable. And to your point, that's what we have learned in the last few months. We know who dies. We know 79% of people are over 65. We know that 95% have one or more pre-known medical conditions. So if you're under 65 with no illness, the risk to you is incredibly low. We also know that in countries like Sweden, where they've not had much of well, they haven't had any lockdown, they've only taken sensible precautions, that the death rate is very low, and Sweden seemed to have got through this incredibly well. When you look at all the compelling evidence, I think the average analytical person that doesn't let fear dominate their beliefs will come to the conclusion that probably we should not be locking down. We should be protecting the old and the vulnerable, and we should be getting on with life.
Amen to that. That's the conclusion that I've come to. I think Rishi Sunak needs to give John Caudwell a call, because CPR, the Caudwell Pandemic Recovery, sounds very sensible to me. And we need some voices like John advising this new Chancellor of the Exchequer, who does have a monumental task ahead. You have to feel for him.